In today's video, I'm going to talk about the sad reality of living and dating in Brazil, which is the following. In Brazil, for living and dating, you have two options. Option number one is you go to a big, developed, nice city where there's other foreigners, there's good infrastructure, there's a lot to do, there's cool rooftop lounges and bars and just a lot going on. And the dating's gonna absolutely fucking suck. And you're gonna be like, why the shit did I even come to this fucking place? Dating back home in the United States was like damn near almost this difficult. That's option one. That's Rio de Janeiro, Sao Paulo, etc. Not sure about Florianopolis, the South, I haven't been there yet, but could be that way down there too. Or option two, you're gonna go to a city that you haven't heard of. So again, not Sao Paulo, not Rio de Janeiro, some city that you've never heard of in Brazil, maybe a 2 million, 3 million person city. And it's going to be, I hate to say it, very third worldy, very kind of shitty living standard. It's going to be dangerous. There's going to be crime everywhere. There's going to be down power lines and electrical wires, dog shit in the streets everywhere from all the stray dogs. But the dating is going to be amazing. And it's going to be the passport bro heaven that is, advertised on, YouTube and, social media. I know this. I lived in Brazil for about, I think all in all, I've done about a year and a half or 2 years there. And I'm one of the foremost authorities on this. You can fight against me. You can leave a lame loser comment arguing with me. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. I went to Rio and they line up for me. Okay, you're either doing pay for play, which is another big problem we're going to talk about in Brazil, huge problem. And it's not to pick on Brazil, pay for play is really big in most parts of the world. Actually, the worst I think I've ever seen it is Miami. Maybe Medellin, Colombia is even worse. And to kind of illustrate this fact a bit more, I want to talk about a city called Goiânia, and I want to mention just some of the good and the bad and the ugly and the raw truth about, again, how dating works in Brazil. But again, this video was about the dark reality, the no hold nothing back truth about living and dating in Brazil. Okay, so one thing that can be very misleading about Brazil as well, if you're going to different dating markets, is for some reason, Brazilian women have a black belt. They have a PhD in the ancient art of time wasting. Brazilian girls can be the world's biggest time wasters. Now, I will say something. Let's say a poor dating market like Sao Paulo, Brazil, which we'll talk about the pay-for-play problem. We'll talk about the delusionally high standards they're getting from the influence of how American feminism is coming down there. But let's say you're at the upper tier of the dating market. Let's say you have a super, super rock solid social media profile where you look like James fucking Bond in all your pictures. You're buying boosts on dating apps. You're meeting women directly on Instagram that aren't even on the dating apps. Or maybe you're just handsome and, in person, you're meeting a lot of women. You're very, very confident and very adept at cold approach, and you get a girl. Bro, Brazilian girls have some of the best personalities, especially in Sao Paulo. It's kind of a work, hustle city. And even these quote unquote career women, I dated a girl in Sao Paulo that she was a CPA, so a certified public accountant. And she also had a law degree. So she would work with companies and do something where she would save companies, millions of dollars on their taxes. And she got a percentage of the money she would save them on their taxes. And she made buku bucks. She drove a G-Wagon, or I don't know if it was a G-Wagon. She drove some type of Mercedes. I'm not good at cars. And I'm sure she must have been a shark in her career to get to where she was at her age. She was 24, 25. She must be pretty sharp, but she was just a docile, feminine goddess. And Brazilian women, they're always touching you. They're like I use this analogy, like a squirrel on an oak tree running all around you, and just so pleasant to deal with. And you might be saying, well, Casey Redbeard, didn't you just directly contradict yourself? You're saying don't go to Sao Paulo for dating, and then now you're saying you had this amazing girl from Sao Paulo that's using as an example. You don't know the amount of work and the amount of flaking. Girls will talk to you for ages. They'll do video calls, get on a video call with you. I've talked to girls for 2 hours on video call. Poof, they disappear. There's something about Brazilian culture. They call it dar perdido. That means give a lost, give a lost. I don't know, dar perdido. But it means ghosting. They just love to ghost. They love to flake. They love to match with a lot of guys and waste time. They have no sense of respect for a man's time. And this can be misleading. For example, you would never think that playing with locations and like trying new locations. Going back to what I was originally going to talk about, this city called Goiânia, Brazil. Goiânia is like flaking on steroids. This is not Guyana or whatever you call it is another country. Goiânia is a city. It's the worst city I've ever been to for dating in my whole fucking life in Brazil. Has the most beautiful women by far in the country. They kind of look like Paises, like girls from Medellin. They kind of look like Colombians, Venezuelans, whatever. The super perfect symmetrical face, the skinny waist, and the fat asses. And bro, you will get on Tinder there. Well, I don't know. Some of you schmucks have like horrible photos. By the way, still doing free Instagram audits. There's a link in the description for my Instagram. Message me the word audit. I'll give you guys a free Instagram audit for a limited time. But you'll go there. You'll set your location there. You'll meet girls on Instagram there. Bro, I was matching with like beauty pageant winners. I was getting like 7 to 8 quality matches a day. It's the same thing. Talk, flirt, high energy, and then boom, disappear. Talk, flirt, boom, disappear. And you're just wondering, like, how can the conversion rate literally be 1% to 2%? Actually, of all the dates I went on there with out there, the girls were not actually from Goiânia. They were from other parts of Brazil. And Brazil as a whole, it's kind of like the United States, where there's, what is the United States? What is a good representation of like an American girl or United States? Is it a girl who lives in Brickell, Miami? Is it a girl who's in, on Hollywood Boulevard trying to get her singing career and move there from a small town? Is it a girl that is still in a small town? Is it Alaska? Is it Vermont? Is it Seattle, downtown Seattle? Like, America is very diverse. My point is Brazil is very diverse. And there are amazing dating markets. Again, that's what we talked about in the video. I gatekeep this shit from now on. I don't want you fuckers like, listen, I got to get paid. I love to give as much value. Okay, I'll give you a hint. The north of Brazil. There you go. That's like your like clue, your hint. I got to drop. Listen, some of I'm in like half gatekeep, half not. I don't want all the retards like swarming to all the best spots. If you work with me, if you come, in my private communities, I'll talk about this more. But let's just say, don't go to Rio and Sao Paulo. Find smaller cities you haven't heard of, and like the north is better for dating. Another big problem with, so that was Goiânia. Again, you can match with every girl. They're all gorgeous. They're all, unfortunately, they're all single moms too. But bro, like, and it's not just me. Other people go there and have the same exact experience. It's like the biggest tease ever. Now, going back to like Rio and Sao Paulo, again, I talked about how I dated that amazing girl, and I dated other amazing girls in that city, a lot of girls that are not from Sao Paulo. But the two big problems with Rio and Sao Paulo is because Brazil doesn't speak Spanish, it loses a bit of that familiarity and like similar culture from its neighbors, because again, they don't have a common language. So they tend to mimic and have a lot more similar qualities with the United States, right? Like, United States is definitely like the big brother of Brazil. All the cultural movements, all the memes, all the fashion, all the styles, everything that starts in America makes its way to Brazil. It does to the world at large, but Brazil even stronger. And unfortunately, the feminism. In as little as 2 goddamn motherfucking years, I saw Sao Paulo go from where like I could consistently, actually get, a true 8.5 on a date that I met usually directly on Instagram. Usually it wasn't even through a dating app because, and again, if you guys want to know how to use Instagram as a dating app, there's a link to my free training on how I use Instagram. That's also in the link of this video. So in just from 2022 to 2024, massive difference. Like, the exponential difference of like how much influencers are monetizing, how much pay for play culture is taking over, and just how much during, how can I dog whistle this? The big thing that happened 4 years ago, again, we're in the year 2024. So there was a big event that happened 4 years ago, and the United States imposed some restrictions. If the United States didn't do those same restrictions, the world would not have followed. The US dictates how culture follows, and women in Rio and Sao Paulo are getting that delusionally high standard. Like, my friends and now my business partners, Fresh and Fit, how on their podcast, the girls are always like, girl, they neck roll, right? I got that from Austin Holloman, the neck rolling. Girl, if he ain't minimum 6'1", 6'2", if he ain't earning, 30, 40, 50K a month, if he ain't this, if he ain't that, if he ain't perfect in every way, like he doesn't work for me. Unfortunately, that's trickling in like to Sao Paulo and stuff. You cold approach girls on the streets of Sao Paulo, they just look scared. They're just like, like they don't know how to socialize. Most of them have sugar daddies. There's a video coming out. It'll be like 1 or 2 uploads after this where I actually interview a Brazilian girl. So from a Brazilian woman's mouth, I don't blur her face. She's not hiding her identity. She's, on record, on the open saying up to 80% of the women, the beautiful women in Brazil, are involved in some form of sex work, at least in the big cities. Now, another myth that we'll bust right here about Sao Paulo and Rio is this whole thing that like there's so many beautiful women. Unfortunately, that's not. Again, other cities, definitely the case. Goiânia, they're like all beautiful, but a bad dating market because of the flaking. But the way Brazilian women work in like Sao Paulo and Rio is it's like hordes and legions of like water buffalo and wildebeest and swamp monsters, and then every once in a while like a true legit perfect 10 enters, and of course like she gets like a slow motion entrance, and it's like, oh my god, this like 10 has appeared, and you see them once in a while, but by and large there's not that many of them, and that just furthers their delusional standards even more and makes the temptation to get paid and monetize their beauty even more. So that's kind of the deal, how it works there. So like I've said in other videos, if I could gift you an extra 3 or 4 inches of height, if I could give you an extra, I don't know, double or triple your income, if I could give you, a coupon to get a free, jaw implant or whatever from a plastic surgeon, make you better looking, none of that shit would have a greater impact on your results with women other than changing your location. You would not go fishing for salmon in, I don't know fish, but like in a river that doesn't have salmon, right? Like you would not go hunting for polar bears in Hawaii. The dating market determines your results more than anything else, and this is why you have to be strategic. And this is why even for you guys who can't leave the US, I get this is like a half like passport bro channel. I do like, kind of a wide range of stuff, and I still serve and work with a lot of people in the US. So, a lot of my clients, give them a high side of social media. They're crushing it, even in like, quote unquote, more cities you might think were difficult, like Miami or, Salt Lake City or something like that. But you have to really, really know where you're going. You don't just go overseas and go become a passport bro and then everything is hunky-dory. And you got to understand too that women are kind of sheep. They obey the mainstream influence of whatever's around them. So if in some city, like for example, here's an example. When I went to the Philippines back in like 2017, it's probably a little more competitive now. I think the gringo, the white boy, blue eyes advantage has died down a little bit. But I remember being in nightclubs in the Philippines and like literally every single girl I opened would be like, oh, like all over me because I'm like a rock star for just being like, a 5'10.5" white guy with like, like average, decent looking guy. And then every once in a while I would approach a girl and she would recoil in horror at the sight of me. And those were the Korean girls in the club. So a lot of Koreans, to learn English and save money, they go to the Philippines where basically everybody speaks English. They get cheap English lessons there in the Philippines to live there and save money. But because they're Korean, now, geographically, Korea and Philippines aren't that far away. Historically, they have a history of the U.S. bailing them out in a major conflict. We helped the Filipinos in a conflict with Japan. We helped the Koreans in a conflict with, North Korea. So we have kind of a similar history of like they should like Americans because we kind of helped them out in world conflicts. Geographically, they're not too far away. But for some reason, the programming, the social programming that people, by and large, but especially women, let's be honest, follow in Korea is that no, you only date other Koreans, no other ethnicities are attractive, and in the Philippines, for whatever reason, foreigners are extremely attractive. So Korea, they don't like foreigners. Filipinos, they do like foreigners. So same thing in Brazil, right? There are certain cities that the idea of like being this foreigner, white, black, doesn't matter, just being like non-Brazilian, being something different, or their attitudes about their standards, like not having these delusionally high standards, or being more open to traditional relationships that are based on chemistry and connection and not just all based on finance, are a lot more common. And these cities are just much better for dating. Also, certain cities are better for online versus cold approach. And I really do love day game. I think day game is like the purest form of game. It can be a little low ROI on your time if you're just like strolling through the malls. You really want to go at like, food courts around lunch hour or, busy metro stations to kind of cram it in. Night game works if you can find a place that's not too bottle servicey and the music isn't too loud. Basically impossible to find that in Brazil. Another big problem is like, aside from like how Brazilian music is irrefutably the worst music of all time, a lot of the girls have like tattoos and piercings, and it's kind of a city by city thing. So like Fortaleza, I found was one of the better cities, where only maybe like 40% of the girls had tattoos, maybe 60 didn't. And then other cities, it's as high as like literally 100%. But whether, the tattoo thing bothers you or not, you got to pick a good city. And whether, you're in a more of a cold approach city, online works in every city, but I just find like day game works better in markets where women are like more receptive and have like less delusionally high standards. The more delusionally high standards they are, I find the more online works better. And the more down to earth they are, the more I find like a combination of both works. And the real best is like the hybrid, right? You're meeting girls online, you're outsourcing this, you have some type of system. I use online dating virtual assistants because I like to meet girls directly on Instagram outside the apps, and ain't nobody got time to troll for girls, one by one, and keep a list of it in a Google sheet, who you follow, who you've unfollowed, et cetera, and who's responding, who's not, et cetera. But any way you do it, but especially if you're meeting women online as well, and I've talked about this in another video, so I'll make this point really quick. If you go for an Instagram close and you have a really, really, really baller Instagram, you go from a guy who maybe presented himself pretty well. Like, yeah, the idea is you make a good impression in real life from the very beginning, right? But maybe go from a guy who is just kind of like made an all right impression, but then she sees a super baller social media. You're like in a podcast studio, you're doing important shit. You're at these really nice dinners, rooftop lounges, dressed super well, always like wearing like, blazers and stuff. You look very, very successful. Maybe you're giving a speech to a room full of people, playing a musical instrument to a room full of people. You closed a commercial real estate deal. So you go, damn, does this guy have money? He's like closing deals and stuff like that, making content, making charismatic, funny content where you're talking and showing your personality. That stuff, that's like crack. When you have like good online strategy, good in-person strategy, and combine the two, that's the best thing. However, as amazing as that stuff is, it is your location. As we talked about, nothing changes this more than your location. So that is the sad truth about Brazil. Is like, listen, Rio and Sao Paulo, so much to do, such fun cities, great culinary experiences, other foreigners, other shit, all going on. You will not be happy with the dating. You will think you'll be happy. You'll go there, you'll change your location. You'll get a lot of matches. Maybe you'll meet some girls on the street of Rio. They'll be, polite. They'll give you their Instagram. They're going to flake. They're going to flake because they got a guy that's paying them. Up to 80% of these girls in these cities are doing some form of pay for play. You won't even be able to find attractive girls most of the time because, like I said, the average Brazilian girl, at least in these cities, not in other areas. Again, it's very region specific. There are areas where almost all Brazilian girls are beautiful. But in Rio and Sao Paulo, again, you'll struggle to even find beautiful girls. And if you're going to go to these places, research the location very well, and not just who you can match with, because sometimes that can be like a fugazi, right? Because it's not just who you can match with on the dating apps or who's receptive, but it's who's not flaking. And that's why Goiânia was one of the most frustrating experiences that I ever had when it comes to dating. Now, for improving dating, for getting better results, I've talked about this before. I'm still doing free Instagram and social media audit. I can look at your dating app profile as well. That is the best strategy, looking high status on social media. That's how you can attract women. And like I said, combine that with in-person. Go to my Instagram, RedbeardRants1, and I will still give you a free social media audit. Other than that, if this is new, if it's your first time here, please subscribe. I got really, really hot videos dropping. Like I said, the interview with the Brazilian girl is coming up soon. You don't want to miss that. Also, I've been traveling through other places. The Kenya video, I went all the way to Africa, to Kenya. I got to make that video as well. So stay tuned, stay subscribed. And if you are a subscriber, give me a comment on what you want to see for the future. I really want to know what you guys want to see for future content is. Just say, hey, do a video on this, do another vlog, whatever. I'm really curious. And that is the end of today's video, boys. Peace out.